That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about William Castle's 1961 cult classic, Homicidal, with a special guest.
Yeah, we have a special guest. We have Deryk from Flicks Snacks and Knick Knacks. Very excited to have you. This is the first time we've had someone on our channel do a video with us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm honored. Thank you so much.
So tell us about your channel.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, it's Flicks Snacks and Knick Knacks. And it started off as something where I did a little bit of all those things. You know, Flicks, I've reviewed movies, snacks, different snacks and movie snacks. Snack Crate was a subscription box I was subscribed to at the time where I'd review, they send like a different country's snacks every month. And I would like pair it up, like, eat your Thai snacks and watch a Thai film and kind of sorts of things like that. And the Knick Knacks are obviously just like the figures and things like that I have behind me. But, I review movies. I like to do interviews and collaborations like this. And that's about it. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyone who wants to come over and check it out, feel free. Love to have you.
We will put the link to your channel in the description.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay. So Homicidal. So we thought we're planning on doing a video on your channel, but for you on our channel, we thought maybe choose something that has like a queer element, because Deryk is not queer. So, and we have very little access to straight men around here. So we thought it might be fun. We thought it might be fun to choose a movie that has sort of a queer element. And then on your channel, you'll pick something a little more bro-y, I think. But
yes. So, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Violent for sure.
Well, we don't. We already know the movie you suggested. Nick is excited because he's seen it.
Yeah, I remember when it came out. It's good. It's good.
So I'm excited to watch it for the first time. But for this movie, Homicidal, Nick chose it. Why did you choose it?
It's a bit offbeat. I'm a fan of William Castle, and I haven't watched it in a while. And I have always been attracted to kind of how subversive it is, and how unintentionally subversive it is. Because it's not really a go-to queer classic, and it's probably problematic on a lot of levels, but it's also kind of very far ahead of its time despite itself.
Okay, so Deryk, have you seen other William Castle films?
I had, but I didn't know I had until I watched this and started digging in and doing a little bit of research. And I realized like The House on Haunted Hill was him, and Macabre. And then there's a couple of others that I recognize that I had seen as well that I know he did in the late 60s and early 70s. But yeah, I'm definitely a fan of his tone, and just about everything I've seen that he's been a part of. I've thought, like you said, submersive is a good word. It just kind of sucks you in with the characters.
So House on Haunted Hill has Vincent Price.
Yes.
So I saw that at the New Beverly.
We saw a Riff Tracks version of that somewhere, but both that and 13 Ghosts were his films that were remade.
Yes,
in the late 90s, early 2000s as well.
The one I'm most familiar with is Straight Jacket with Joan Crawford, because we have a huge poster of it in our house.
Yeah, that's my favorite. William
that's
Castle.
awesome.
So I know that one.
But he's also, he was known for having gimmicks, and he wanted very much to be like Alfred Hitchcock. He had the rights to Rosemary's Baby. He very much was trying to direct that, but the studio said no. You can't do that movie.
Some of the gimmicks you have are like in the theaters, the seats would like shock patrons.
For the Tingler, yeah, there was
Tingler.
Yep.
And then there was the skeletons they dangle in front of the screen too, yes, at certain parts.
And wasn't there one like a smellometer?
That's Polyester, John Waters.
Oh, John Waters. Okay, well,
who's aping, and John Waters played William Castle in Feud.
That's right, he did.
Wow.
But yes, for Homicidal, it's a fright break, which is my least favorite part of this movie. I hate that because it kind of. Well,
let me tell the basic story. Okay. So the basic story, this movie's from 1961.
Yep, a year after Psycho, which is 1960.
Okay, and this is supposed to sort of be like a ripoff, kind of.
Yes.
Okay. The basic story is there is a woman, and I'm ruining this shit really early. There is a woman named Emily. Emily, her father is very rich, or was very rich, and died. And he was going to leave in his inheritance to his son. So the mom had already had a daughter, and then she has a second child, and that child's a daughter, Emily. But she wants that money So she decides that she is going to like bribe the nurse who delivered the baby and like the registrar, whomever's in charge of filling out the birth certificate, to put that this baby was born male.
Mm-hmm.
And then she raises this baby as a boy,
Mm-hmm.
all with the intention of getting that boy's $10 million inheritance. Okay. So when we're introduced to Emily, she's 20.
Mm-hmm.
And when we meet her, her objective is to kill the registrar because he knows the truth and she doesn't want him to tell on her.
Mm-hmm.
And the nurse who delivered her, this lady is incapacitated and living with Emily. And Emily's living situation is that she's saying that that Warren, who's like her boy self, moved to Denmark, met this woman, Emily, married her, and then brought her back. But they're living a double life because Emily is both Warren and herself.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
But you don't learn that bit about her being born actually a cis female until the very last scene. So the film sets it up because at the time, Christine Jorgensen had, of course, received a sex change in late 50s. So that was all over in the US. So the signal to the audience is that we were in Denmark is that we assume that she had a sex change. Yeah.
But to wrap it up, it culminates with there's like a nosy ass doctor in the community who decides that he wants to check in on the nurse who used to work for him. And he recognizes something's not quite right. So he comes back, and at that point, he witnesses what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And they take Emily down because his stepsister is like, the stepsister's part of the story. Half-sister, whatever. And she ends up killing Emily, Warren, whatever. And then the film ends with is it the detective or the cop?
The detective, yeah.
He explains to what's her name? Oh, Miriam Webster, like the dictionary, which I want to talk about. The detective explains to Miriam, the half-sister, that yeah, this is what was going down, the inheritance. She was pretending to be he all this time. Mm-hmm. The end. Okay.
Good luck with your money.
Good luck. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do we want to start? I have notes. What do you want to say?
Go ahead. You guys can start.
I'll start. So I think from the beginning, it was very odd. Like, I knew nothing about this movie. And from the opening with the brother and sister, because we see them as
kids.
We see Warren and Miriam Webster as kids. And then there's something with like a doll and like Miriam eating Warren the doll. And immediately I thought, okay. Then we meet Emily. And I don't know how to say this, but I thought they were painting her and like styling her so that she could be, it was very obvious to me that this lady is probably the boy.
Sure.
Did anyone else feel that way?
Yeah. Well, immediately when you see Warren.
It definitely started kicking in pretty quickly. That I was like, I think I know where it's going. Obviously, there were a lot of things that it unfolded that I didn't expect. But the general idea I had was that, like, if there is something going on where there's a boy and a girl, like this is it.
Yeah. When that man says there are a lot of Miriam Websters in Southern California, I was like, I have never, I thought that was so silly.
You just look her up in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought the actor playing Emily Warren looked like someone. Who do you, I thought she looked like Lisa Kudrow.
I thought she looked like Billy Whitelaw, who most people know as the maid from The Omen.
Oh, okay.
She kind of has a wide face like that.
I thought she was beautiful.
She is. The bang situation is a lot.
Yes. Yeah, a little curled up bangs.
Well, it was, the early 60s.
That's true.
What's of course.
Is that actress's real name is Joan Marshall, but she's credited in the film under a pseudonym, Jean Arless.
I saw that.
I wonder if that's one of Castle's publicity stunts for the film.
I think trying to mislead.
Oh, I bet that's
because,
what it was.
because Gene Arless gets an introduction credit. So he made up this persona, he made up this person so that you wouldn't give the gag away. Much like, you know, when Hitchcock was making Psycho, he bought all the copies of the book so no one would know the ending.
Oh.
So I think that was, you know, this was a trick of William Castle.
Well, I was reading that the actual actor, because her character was played by or credited as Gene Arless, people thought that was her debut role.
Mm-hmm.
So she had a little bit of trouble like getting other gigs because they thought she was like a
no. And she was like an accomplished actress, right?
Yeah,
like she's has several credits. I know when I looked it up, I was like, she's been in a lot. So.
Okay, so Emily checks into a hotel and she's being a little odd, and then of course they're like she checks in, the front desk agent offers a bellman's assistance, and there are two bellmen, an older gentleman and then a more
yes,
and a more attractive younger gentleman. So the front desk agent points to the older gentleman and says, "Please help this woman," and she says, "No, I want the other one."
And the old guy's like,
his feelings were so hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, the camera
so bad for him.
He looks so salty. That poor man.
Because it shows him, he like leans his head and he's like looks dejected. Yeah.
And he kind of makes a face like, I understand. So Emily tells this bellman, like she's kind of flirting with him, and then asks him to get her some ice. And when he returns, she's like disrobed and asks him if he's been married, and then gives him $100 tip, and then tells him, look in this drawer or whatever. And there's another $1,900. So she's like, you can have $2,000 if you marry me.
Yes.
And she's a beautiful woman. And he's like, well, I'm not opposed to that. And she's like, no, but it's just for like one day. And the reason she wants to do that is she wants a reason to go see the
Justice of the Peace.
The Justice of the Peace, yes, who signed her birth certificate. But I thought that was pretty, I thought that was a very, for that time period, to have this woman be so aggressive and assertive.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's one of the notes I actually wrote. I was like, she's very straightforward, very to the point, you know, and she likes like, no, it's got to be you at one point. And the guys are just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, whatever. And even he's like, she shows the money and he's like, who do I have to kill?
Yes.
Yeah,
he's ready to kill for her already, you know.
Like, not far off. You're not far off, sir. Did you notice when she left? So after she kills, she stabs the Justice of the Peace to death. After she does that and she leaves in the car, and she also leaves the bellman there, she gets followed by a police officer who turns his siren on. Mm-hmm. And he follows her for quite some time, and then he pulls over a parked car. I thought that was so weird.
That was weird, but that's also ripping off Psycho, because there's a sequence where Janet Leigh's character is
thinks she's being followed.
Yes, and I think she does get pulled over by a cop.
Oh, wow. See, interesting. I didn't make that connection.
I didn't either. I just thought it was so weird that like she's being, I mean, he was behind her for at least a mile.
He was.
And then he just like stops at a.
Yeah, that's one of many nonsensical moments in this.
There's a couple of those. That's what I was thinking. I was like, but it kind of just started going where I was like, I don't care. This is still so like engaging.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just.
So the half sister, Miriam, she sort of has like an attraction, or she's in having a dalliance with the pharmacist, like the local pharmacist,
who's played by Glenn Corbett, Karl.
And Emily's trying to excuse herself from the house, like leave Miriam at the house to take care of Helga, who's the nurse. She had a stroke, so she's like mute. So she's just stuck at this house, like unable to tell the truth about what's really happening. But anyway, Emily goes to the pharmacy and she presents a prescription for strychnine.
Yeah.
And he's like,
the pharmacist is like, this is dangerous. She's like, okay, I'll have to be careful.
I'll be careful then.
Yeah. But even more ridiculous than that is he prepares the strychnine with his bare hands right in front of her. Like there is no, like we have more precautions right now going to the grocery store than this man had prepared strychnine. Like no mask, no gloves, no barrier. Yeah. He's just talking to his lady like,
yeah, here you go.
You know, what's funny too is that's probably not far off from like how it was then too, you know, with just like the procedures in the kind of I guess I don't know who it would be, but like the OSHA for like the kind of industries I work in that kind of moderate and see over your safety precautions. They were non-existent a lot of times back
That would,
then.
you know what, that would make a really good documentary about like safety precautions and what was allowed, like personal protective gear and all that back in like the 50s and 60s, because they weren't shit.
Well,
they really weren't.
Well, just like the kind of the gossipy doctor, HIPAA apparently wasn't a thing because he's just telling everybody's business.
That
Exactly.
doctor.
Which was normal. Like that was that in a lot of films. Like another thing that comes up, that's a plot point in The Man Who Knew Too Much, the Jimmy Stewart version. We're just talking about they're joking about the patient's surgeries he did. Like, okay.
Deryk, the town you live in, is it like highly populated?
Absolutely not. I live in a town of 800 people.
Oh damn. No. Okay.
So does everyone know your business?
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, you know, for such a small town, I remain pretty private. Most of the things I do and interact with are online and kind of out of the realm of interest of people around here. Like, and that's why I actually became part of online communities and stuff, because I was like, there's no one to talk with, you know, around here about South Korean films. Like, who wants to talk, you know, about the new Japanese movie in Roth, Oklahoma? It's
yeah, that like. Wow, like it's just so wild to me to think that I would be in such a small town, especially, you know, 60 years ago, where like everyone's telling everyone's business.
Oh yeah, this is set in Solvang, which I've been to.
It's wine country.
It's wine country. My mom has a thing for Kurt Russell, and he makes this wine that he has.
Shout out to Gogi Wine. I'll post a picture of me with Kurt Russell right now. No.
Yeah, we both met him.
Yes, that's awesome. But I wish I had a picture of me and Kurt Russell.
Like I've been to a restaurant there where it's a really old style, beautiful place, but it's dedicated to peas and like pea soup because that was an industry there or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
cool.
And we had pea soup for breakfast.
Okay, I was confused. Getting back on track. I was confused when the pharmacist sees the newspaper with Emily's like sketch rendering or the sketch artist rendering of Emily on it. He doesn't recognize her, right?
And she looks just like her.
And
right?
she looks exactly like the sketch. Was that me? Like, did I not catch something?
I think he still hadn't quite figured it out yet, but I was looking at like, that is like an exact copy.
She looks exactly like that sketch.
Well, and then as Warren makes a point of showing like, it disturbed me because it looks like Emily.
Right. Well, yeah, when he reintroduces the like, hello, stupid. Okay.
Well, which calls into question, is she really homicidal? Because she leaves two witnesses at the first kill. It's like she's really only trying to kill.
Well, she is homicidal, she's just not good at it.
Sure.
Watching Miriam and Warren like them interacting and bitching about their childhood reminded me of my sister and I.
That's awesome. See, I'm
wondering which one of us is going to kill someone first.
Which that seems so awkward because it's like you're really talking about all this right now. It's obviously exposition for the audience, but it also said to me that this was written by Rob White, who wrote several William Castle movies, is that they really did try to ground this character psychologically.
Yes, well, we can talk about that, but yes, because I agree. I think a lot of work was done to give these characters more so than I think in Psycho, like Norman Bates. I don't think.
Right.
But yeah, that's great point.
Okay, since people know like to talk about how people look and they look elderly, when they said that Emily was 20 and that Warren is 20.
Oh, that was I circled.
They said 20 or 21. Yeah, I was like,
what?
Wait, I did the same thing. I was like,
yeah, especially as Warren.
She's a beautiful woman, but that lady ain't nobody's 20. Okay.
She's actually 30 in this, but.
Oh, I thought it was really funny. So, a line that spoke to me is she tells Helga, if you stay in the house, or no, who did she tell?
Miriam.
Emily tells Miriam, if you stay in the house one more minute, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, no,
that really
she just looks at her like,
and she leaves. She's just like, I gotta go. Did you get up your shit? I don't know.
She leaves without anything.
If someone told me that, I would just get up and go.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't you? That's a smart thing to do. Okay, I'll leave.
Let me grab my pocketbook and I'm out of here.
I felt so bad for Helga.
Oh yes, I felt bad for like. Can you imagine being like like you're held captive and you have no voice,
and
literally?
I like the metaphor.
He had that door. knob or
The
whatever.
doorknob. It's the metaphor of like when you open that door, all the answers are revealed.
Yes, yes.
And then her little makeshift wheelchair, that apparatus that goes up and down the stairs, reminded me very much of Gremlins, which I'm sure Joe Dante would have been familiar with this movie.
Gremlins, that scene where the bank manager gets shot out of that shit. My sister and I would laugh at that. That's such a good scene.
It is a good scene. But
when they showed that thing going up and down the stairs, I was like, I had no idea they had those back then. I mean, I don't know. You know, I've always seen the commercials, the infomercials where like the older people are sliding down the stairway. And I just had no idea that they had that kind of, mechanics back then in homes.
That makes me think of the infomercial for like the elderly with the bathtub that you can walk into.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Nice. It has like a door on it or something.
No, I think as a kind of a film dealing with transness in a way, before we even had a kind of an awareness about that, it's almost like the final twist is what makes this so interesting to me.
I did want to say, even before you elaborate, so I didn't know anything about this film, so I'm assuming there was like a gay element. And then when I watched it, I'm like, well, there really isn't. But I do think the queer component it's about gender, and it's about like this person who was not allowed to express like to present their authentic gender expression.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it very interesting that even though it's not about a trans person per se, it's this cis female who was forced to live as male
and really just wants to be her cis.
It just wants to be her cis self.
It's almost like because it was on accident. Because like it was meant for shock value at the time, and really nothing more, not to make a statement, but it can almost make a good statement today. Yeah. More so in the climate we live in now, where things have been opened up and more accepted.
Which is a good point, because I think inadvertently it handled the topic in a pretty sensitive way.
It did.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, it looks. I mean, everything seemed very, I don't know, straight laced about it.
Because what's that movie with Michael Caine where he's
Dressed to Kill?
Because Dressed to Kill, where Michael Caine plays, he's like a cross-dresser, and it's like, that movie is what, 20 years?
1980.
So almost 20 years later, and it's like I don't feel like it took pains to handle this subject with as much sensitivity. But I don't know that I don't think William Castle was thinking about trans people when he made this film, except maybe the idea of Christine Jorgensen being a popular topic. But I was very impressed with how this film has aged.
Yeah, and again, I think it's all inadvertent, but I think that I felt watching this, I haven't seen this in a decade, I felt a lot of empathy for Emily, and just when they're like, Warren comes every Thursday, it's like, this bitch hates Thursdays, because that's when he like all this, like, Emily's upstairs, let me go get him, and it's just like, the terror you must feel. And
she has to get ready, like that poor thing.
Yeah, I just felt very bad. As much as for Helga, I felt bad for her, and what psychologically you would have to go through. And then it's very much a tale of trauma again, and I think that's more in depth than Psycho really is, because Norman Bates is a cross-dresser. You only get that in the end, even though this is fashioned very much like that with all the answers. It's I don't know, this is just,
if this didn't have the fright meter, which is like right before the climax, there are a few campy moments, like when Emily is going to kill the first time she attempts to kill Helga but is interrupted, her facial expressions, it's all very campy. But I think, minus the William Castle isms, I feel like this is a thoughtful, like, well-constructed story. Yeah.
I could agree. I think it's a great storyline, great plot. Some of the notes I had were based around, the fact that even though there were a few questionable decisions along the way in execution, the idea of this movie is actually, like we've kind of brought up, a better, more I don't know, I guess I don't know how I would describe it, but it feels more coherent than Psycho. It comes together better than Psycho, even though it is obviously something that was made only because of Psycho. It feels like it does a lot of the things better and a lot of the things worse, but I don't feel like it's necessarily a worse film.
Yeah, it's just it's a definitely, you know, a B film compared to
Yes, a B version. Correct. Yeah.
the pedigree of Psycho, you know, that's Hitchcock at the top of his game. But yes, this is almost like what if Janet Leigh was the focus in and also the killer in Psycho.
Right.
But my favorite scene is actually when after the Justice of the Peace is killed and Emily goes home, and that's where we first meet Helga, and she screams in her ear like that whisper scream, like he died screaming.
Yes, she died screaming, and she like drags it out.
It's so over the top, but I love it.
It gives me a little like whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah,
It gives me a little bit of that.
which was the year after this, I believe.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's 62?
Mhm.
Oh, I thought that
So
was
that might be some so you start to see, I at least I do when I go back and watch these films year to year, I start to see, I'm like, this feels a little bit like this, and then I can almost like directly correlate it to it was a year or two after it. They were really starting to, you know, form, you know, a different kind of cinema, so they were taking a lot of inspiration from each other, especially in the 50s through 60s.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, this has a 2-time Oscar-winning cinematographer, Burnett Guffey, who won Oscars for Bonnie and Clyde and From Here to Eternity. So I think it looks great.
Ooh.
It's just, you know, when you get that ugly fright meter on there, it's like, with
That
William
was terrible.
Voice,
Yeah.
like you have 45 seconds to leave the theater.
but
It's
I'm
kind of like the intro. I like the intro warning. It's kind of, it reminds me of the intro warning from Frankenstein, which was, you know, 1931. A lot of the Universal monster movies would have like that intro, like, be warned, you know, what you're about to see is disturbing, you know. And when he's sitting there with his needle and he's like, ooh, blood. So I do like that. But yeah, definitely stopping for like the fright meter thing was a little over the top.
Yeah, it's just like I wish we could you just
I did use that point to use the restroom, so that was helpful.
Sure. All
Perfect time.
I think like audiences looking back, like the signaling about Denmark is different now, because that would have told audiences then, like, you know, that she had a sex reassignment surgery. But now that to me almost feels like out of Dracula, like Transylvania. Like there's almost something vampiric about this person that's come back from a foreign place that Americans know, you know, ostensibly know nothing about.
And to be clear,
yeah, I can see that for sure.
I was thinking that Emily was trans, like Emily went to Denmark and had a sex change. So I think the gag was when you first see Warren, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute. This person is two people.
Warren's the dead is what you're thinking.
Yeah. So I mean, it was complex enough that it kept me, you know. I did watch a little, the DVD we have has like a featurette in the making of the film and people talking about it and how like terrifying it was. I don't think this movie is terrifying.
No.
I think it's psychological and thrilling, but I wouldn't call it a horror film.
No, and it does establish some empathy for its characters.
Yeah.
Patricia Breslin, that plays Miriam, the half sister. To me, I did feel very similar to how I feel about Vera Miles in Psycho. She's boring and I don't care. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, Deryk.
Pretty much, you know, the things we talked about, it seems like we have a lot of the same ideas about the film and you know, the areas it hit and the areas it missed. I like a lot of like even if it was on, it's hard, it's so hard. Another thing, it's so hard to tell like what's done intentionally and unintentionally because of the, you know, the different, you know, completely different cultures and every generations we live in now. But I felt like there was some dark humor, you know, throughout it, or at least like things were hitting for me where I was like, that was kind of funny in a odd, off-putting way. I don't know if it was supposed to be, but so like a lot of things work for me. I don't know if they're supposed to work. So it's hard to judge how good of a movie it is. But what I can say is I really actually like, I enjoyed it from start to finish. I was like, really, like the word you mentioned was submersive. I felt like just pulled in. I cared about the characters, not because they're interesting, but I feel like it's more the storytelling aspect of it. It's, you know, not the character writing, but the way they unfold the story and bring somebody in here and bring somebody in there and then bring them back. And the way that they use that is what kept me engaged. But I really liked it. I knew the twist and it was predictable, but even with that, it was enjoyable. So I think that gives it even more credit.
Okay, if you had to give it a score out of 5,
Okay.
What would you give it, Nick?
3.
3?
Mhm.
I would give it 3.5 out of 5.
Oh wow. Okay.
I really liked it.
I love it.
I really liked it too. You know, I gave a 7.7 out of 10. You know, so I would be somewhere right in there about 3 point, 3 point, the high 3s, close to 4.
Oh, I've never done like quarter. Maybe I should start doing that.
Okay.
Oh, I might start doing the 3.75s and 3.25s.
Nice. See, I didn't do it at first until I can't remember what film it was I reviewed, and I came to it and I was like, I can't give it a 6.5 and I can't give it a 7. So I gave it a 6.8. I was like, I have, and so then I started using the different fractions and things, but and I also started doing like a thing where I give like an MVP. So like, what's the most valuable part of this movie? And for me, it was pace. I really liked the pace of this film. I thought that, from start to finish, it was always constantly unraveling something. It was never lull.
That's true. Yeah, it's pretty swift at an hour and 27, and that lends itself to how some exposition is unveiled. Is like, this is the scene where all of that has to happen. But even still, I think that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was some lazy clues like the prescription bottle that got left at the scene, and that's how they found out. And I was like, God, like I wish they could have figured out something a little bit more complex, but the story itself was so complex.
That reminds me, because Emily has that freak out scene in Miriam's flower shop, and that's where she leaves the strychnine. And then Karl goes there to find Miriam, and Warren knocks him out. Or Emily knocks him out, Warren wakes him up. Then Warren goes to his sister and asks, is everything okay? But then doesn't bother to tell her that your store's been burglarized.
Or that someone got knocked out.
Yeah, like, doesn't tell her.
They were like, there's an accident. They said like there's an accident or like something got, I forget. She's like, Warren says something happened, but it's like very downplayed.
Yeah, it's very
extremely downplayed.
Somebody like vandalized your store and broke a bunch of shit. Like, wouldn't you want to go there immediately?
That's when you start becoming suspicious of Warren if you weren't already.
Right.
Well, I think that's all we have. So subscribe to Deryk's channel, Flicks Snacks and Knick Knacks. Listen to our podcast. That's it. All right, bye.
Bye.